Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new video. With the popularization of Alchemized, which is a recent new release, which is originally a Harry Potter published fan fiction story, I just wanted to quickly make my stance clear, if it wasn't clear already, that I stand with the trans community and any other marginalized community that J.K. Rowling has actively perpetrated stereotypes against. I will always stand with the queer community when it comes to anything, frankly. And I think that J.K. Rowling is a transphobic asshole, and I will never support her, and I will never endorse anything ever that she has promoted or that she benefits from financially. And I think that publishing like a Harry Potter fanfiction originally is just so weird, because like why are you doing that? And I know some people will argue that Alchemized is different from the fanfiction and that like the author changed names and tried to create an original new story. I haven't read the book yet or whatever, but like I think that the origins alone are a red flag, and I already made a TikTok about this already, but I wanted to make a video on BookTube to again say that I don't support the Harry Potter fandom or anything that comes from that. So anyway, with that said, this video focuses on some of my favorite fantasy books with transgender main characters to again continue my allyship towards the transgender community and to support diverse queer authors. So anyway, without any further ado, the first book on this list is called Cemetery Boys. This story is a YA urban fantasy following a transgender main character who accidentally summons a ghost because he's trying to prove his true gender identity to his traditional Latinx family. I think this book is excellent, and it's so good, and it's so awesome. I love the world building and the gay romance and the queerness and the transgender representation and every single element of this story. It is literally written so well. I love the pacing and the plot and the mystery and the magic and literally everything. I think the sequel to this book was postponed to next year as opposed to this year, but either way, I'm so excited to read it. It's going to be so good because Cemetery Boys truly set a precedent for Aidan's like genius writing. I think this book is excellent and it deserves all of its hype and so much more. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Splinter Ash. This story is a middle-grade fantasy following a non-binary main character as well as a disabled main character who are on a quest. And this book, I believe, is the start of a new trilogy. And I think the sequel comes out either later this year or early next year. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I'm so excited to read it because this book was absolutely so excellent and it's so well done. I love reading books about characters who are like challenging the social norm, either with their identities or with their disabilities or just with who they are as a person. And I love that those elements are things that they can't necessarily like change about themselves. You know what I mean? Because I've always been somebody who challenges the social norm because I'm like a disabled Black woman, and I wouldn't necessarily change any of those elements for the world. And it's not necessarily intentional, you know what I mean? But anyway, I thought this book was excellent, and I love the world building and the characters themselves and the writing and the pacing and the plot and everything about it. Like, it's so excellent and it's so stunning and so vivid. I think this book is so underrated and it's so good. And it truly made me feel seen and valued, which means that I know that it can do wonders for the trans community, especially when it comes to transgender children and disabled children. I think this book is excellent and it's so important. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called These Vengeful Gods. This story is a YA fantasy following a queer main character who is descended from the god of death, who must keep their identity secret as they fight through a gladiator-style tournament against the gods who murder their family. I think this book is absolutely so excellent and it's so well done. It's definitely one of my favorite books from this year. I read it back in June, I believe, and I think it's excellent. First of all, the world building is so vivid and it's so stunning and it's so well paced. I love the plot and the found family and the queerness and the characters and everything. This book is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good. And I know that like so many young transgender people will feel seen and heard by this story, especially in terms of trans rage. Like, I think this story is so excellent and it's so good and this book is so underrated and I absolutely loved it so much. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Pet. This story is a YA fantasy following a black transgender main character who finds a monster in a society where she's been told that monsters don't exist, which I think is an absolutely fascinating concept to really talk about the ways in which our society is in denial about certain evils that exist. You know what I mean? Like, this book was so well done and it was so awesome. Whenever I started this book, I was a little hesitant to read it because it's so popular, so I was a little afraid that it wouldn't live up to its hype, but it absolutely did. The world building is so fantastic and so vivid and so well done. The pacing is excellent. I love the plot and the found family and the characters and how normalized the queer representation was. This book is excellent and this author deserves all the flowers and so much more. Like, this book is so good. And I would definitely highly recommend it because every single element was so well developed and so well done. So anyway, with that said, again, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Wishbone. This story is a middle-grade urban fantasy following a young transgender main character who finds a two-tailed cat who grants wishes, except that they discover that these wishes have a cost. This story is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good. This book is so underrated and I think it deserves so much more hype because I loved the world building and the plot and the found family and the friendships and the queerness and everything about it. Like, his relationship with his sister was so well done and so awesome. Like, it's excellent. This book is so wholesome and it's such a good book. I just really enjoyed it. And some people might categorize this book more as, like, I don't know, an urban fantasy horror than an urban fantasy. But I don't know. I think this book is excellent and it deserves so much more hype. And I loved the representation and the characters and everything because they felt like real people instead of like tokenized, like one-dimensional people. Like, I love it when characters really like take care of the representation and really make the characters come to life. Does that make any sense? Anyway, this book is excellent and it's fantastic. And with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Devils Like Us. This story is a YA historical fantasy set during the 19th century, a time period notorious for homophobia and transphobia, mind you, following 3 queer main characters who are being hunted, or targeted rather, by a magical secret society, so they must embark on a quest to uncover secrets, and they're joined by some queer pilots, which I absolutely love. This book was so good, and it's so fantastic, and it's just so excellent. First of all, the queer representation felt so natural and so normalized and so well done. Second of all, I loved the setting and the plot and the pacing and the characters and everything. This book is so fantastic and it's so awesome and I just really enjoyed it. I'm not quite sure actually if there are sequels to this book or not, but I hope so because like I'm so excited to dive back into this world with these characters and the found family and everything. Like, this book is excellent. I love the writing and the plot and the pacing and the characters and everything about it. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and definitely not the least, is called The Deep and Dark Blue. This story is a middle-grade fantasy graphic novel following two main characters who are twins, and they must flee their home after a political coup and assume themselves to be girls, and they join a secret society, and one of them embraces this identity and identifies as a transgender girl, and the other twin doesn't. Anyway, I don't know if that really made any sense at all, but basically this book is so good and it's so fantastic, and I just really, really loved it so much. I love this idea of like becoming someone else and then embracing that side of yourself and realizing that the secret disguise is actually your true self. And I loved this positive portrayal of transgender identity. And I also loved this sibling dynamic. I thought this book was so well done and so wholesome and just so good. And even aside from the transgender queer representation, the characters themselves, again, feel like real people and just so awesome and so well done and so individually well developed. And also, I loved the world building. It was so magical and so vivid. The illustrations are so pretty. I love the plot and the pacing and the mystery and everything about it. This book is absolutely so fantastic and so atmospheric and just so awesome. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. So in conclusion, I think that publishing Harry Potter fanfiction, regardless of how much the story now has changed from its original work, is such a bad idea because it perpetuates the idea that Harry Potter originally was a good work of literature instead of acknowledging that Harry Potter is full of racist stereotypes, transphobia, and anti-Semitism. And I don't know about you, and maybe this is a hot take, but transphobia, racism, and anti-Semitism are bad and should not be endorsed in any way, shape, or form. And I will always stand with the transgender community, the Jewish community, the Black community, etc. because I think that my allyship towards marginalized communities is far more important than childhood nostalgia. Does that make any sense? I've always said this and I will always continue to say this. So with that said, fuck J.K. Rowling, fuck Alchemized, and fuck anyone who supports J.K. Rowling, frankly. So anyway, with that said, in conclusion, I hope that this video helps diversify your bookshelf. I hope this video serves as a reminder to continue to support queer authors, trans authors, and is a reminder that transgender representation should be normalized because transgender people should not be villainized or anything like that, and they should be supported because they deserve love and healthcare and safety and value and everything. So anyway, in conclusion, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the blueberry emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.